And welcome, Hoosier fans, to another victorious episode of the Doing the Work post-game show. As today we talk about your number 7 and 6 ranked Indiana Hoosiers beating Michigan State yesterday by a 76-58 score at Simon Skjodt Assembly Hall. Indiana now 18-3. Overall 10-1 in the Big Ten. And in case you didn't see it today on Sunday, Michigan lost at Northwestern, so IU now 2 games clear in the loss column in the Big Ten standings. I'm your host, Jeff Marlow, here with my co-host, Kathy Amos, and today we have a special guest joining us, Sean Cron, and we will break it all down for you on this edition of the Doing the Work, the new show on the Back Home Network dedicated to covering IU women's basketball. Let's start this show the way we start every show, and that's with our banner moment. In our banner moment today, we could have had a few to pick from yesterday, but I'm going to go with Grace Berger's third quarter. She scored 17 points in the third quarter alone, outscoring Michigan State by herself. They were held to 14 on her way to a career high 29 points. And we'll talk more about Grace's effort, I'm sure, later in the show. So our banner moment today is Grace Berger's third quarter in yesterday's victory over Michigan State. And our banner moment today, as always, is brought to you by our friends at Home Field Apparel, now in their 5th season of sponsoring the Assembly Call, and their first as the presenting sponsor for the Back Home Network. And did you know that among Home Field's large collection of vintage IU apparel is a shirt commemorating one of the most successful seasons in the history of the women's basketball program? It's true. When you go to the IU collection, you'll find a t-shirt commemorating the 1983 season when Indiana won the Big Ten and made its first NCAA tournament appearance. Given what the women's team is doing now under Terry Morin, it might be time for a new shirt soon. And if you support other college teams or have people in your life who do, Home Field probably has something for them too. Their product line now extends to more than 120 different schools with unique vintage logos for all of them. And no matter what you buy, you know it will be comfortable and the colors will last through many washings. Plus, you're supporting an Indiana-based company that came up through Kelly. What could be better than that? Go to homefieldapparel.com and use our promo code HOME, H-O-M-E, for 15% off your entire first order. That's promo code HOME for 15% off. Once again, the website is homefieldapparel.com. Wear one for the team. Okay, now it's time to move the ball, find the open player, and get some opening thoughts from the rest of our team. And we're going to start out with Kathy and the Amos angle.
All right, great. Thanks, Jeff. For those listening and following along in the chat and wondering how this third guy jumped into the show here, Sean is actually my husband, and I don't know so much if he's a willing participant or not, but he watches all the games with us anyway, and we thought we'd throw him into the mix here and see how we can do, if we can get a third person to kind of add different perspectives to the games and things we're trying to do. So be gentle with Sean today. It's his first time, so we'll give that a shot. So in terms of the game, though, I think for me, it just showed once again, the depth of this team, right? We had not one person, again, that has to be the star always from game in to game out. Yesterday it was Grace Berger, but we had 5 players that scored in double digits, and that was the second time that's happened all year. And one of those 5 was somebody that came in off the bench with Chloe Moore McNeil. She came in and gave the team another nice game with another double-digit game with 10 points. And I think it's been fun to see as we've been really breaking down and really going into depth of the team over the last couple of months now, the growth of this team. So we were really concentrating on our lack of bench early on between Jeff and I when we were doing our podcast. And now we're talking about Chloe Moore McNeil coming in off the bench and giving us double digits. She had a double-double last game and now this. And so for me, it's the growth of the team, and not just, we've always talked about the strength of our starting 5 when we had Mac available. And now without Mac, even we have Keandra Brown. Even though you may look at her stat line, she is a huge contributor to this team. You have Chloe Moore McNeil that's coming in and giving great minutes, and the growth of this team is something that I thought was very much on display yesterday.
Yeah, and we've talked about it a number of times. And I didn't know quite what to call the segment, so we'll call it Sean's Summation.
All right. Thank you, Jeff and Kathy, for having me on, and I'm glad to be here. I think, adding to what Kathy said, yesterday with the 5 players scoring in double digits was just incredible, and watching them control that game. And not only that, but now that we've with going in and actually putting on a good showing against a Michigan State team that just beat Michigan, and now we are in clearly in front of the Big Ten standings, and I think we just need to continue this play and continue the effort and finish the season strong, so that we can come home with a Big Ten banner.
And Kathy, let's bring this into this part of it as well. It was reported yesterday, pictures were taken. Mackenzie Holmes was actually dressed and went through warm-ups. She did not play, but I'll kind of throw it to you first and then get Sean's opinion. Do you think we see her later this week, by the end of the week, possibly against Iowa?
Yeah, I mean, that's a good guessing game on our part right now, but gosh, all signs point that way, right? I mean, she's still wearing a heavy knee brace and wraps pretty tightly. Didn't expect to see her to play, but to be honest, I didn't expect to see her dressed yesterday either. So we have a quick turnaround going out to Nebraska tomorrow. So I don't think that hopefully they wouldn't play her there, but I would sure hope that we'll see her against Iowa next weekend. So I'm crossing my fingers on it, but all signs seem to point that way. And Terry Morin's, comments earlier in the week seem to point that way as well. That Mac is ahead of schedule as well. So we'll really need her with Iowa. They've got a really good post player on their team, and so I'm really hopeful we'll have her back for them.
John, got anything else you want to add?
No, I think Kathy hit the nail on the head there. I mean, I think that with everything we've been hearing about Mackenzie, this whole during her injury, is that she's ahead of pace. She's ahead of the therapy coming back, and I think it'll be it'll be an exciting game once we get her back and get her in the mix, and with the how the team has been playing, how strong they've become recently, and if we can get Mackenzie back in there, and it's just going to really be awesome.
As we continue our breakdown of yesterday's Indiana win over Michigan State, we'll point out meaningful moments you might have missed, and then we'll go inside the numbers to highlight the most important statistical notes from the game. You're listening to the Doing the Work post-game show. I'm Jeff Marlow, here with my co-host Kathy Amos, our guest today, Sean Cron, and we are breaking down to Indiana's 76-58 win over Michigan State yesterday. It's time for today's meaningful moments, and we're going to kind of do what we did the last episode. This is, by the way, I'm going to give credit. This was kind of Kathy's idea, and maybe even a little bit of input from Sean as well, that especially some of these games having been on BTN Plus, thankfully. Tomorrow, by the way, at Nebraska is not on BTN Plus. It's a BTN game, and we'll repeat that later. We're going to kind of break it down quarter by quarter. So, Kathy, I'll let you go first. And what did you find in the first quarter?
I thought my first thing right out of the gate was writing down that Grace Berger opened us up. Like it was, to me, it ended up being like a foreshadow of what was to come from Grace, but she opened us up real quick right after the tip going up 0-2. To give us that lead straight from the very beginning of the tip off. But then again, I think a very fantastic highlight from Nikki came at about 7:50 left in the first quarter, where she really scrambled for the ball and ended up forcing a jump ball. I think it still went to, if I remember, I didn't write it down, I should have, but if I remember correctly, I think it went to Michigan State, but it's still, I just thought it, again, set the tone from Nikki and so we see from her from game in and game out. So those are a couple of plays that started us off pretty early.
Sean?
Yeah, I think one of the things I wrote down, with 6:18 left in the first was that, second chance points for Michigan State. It's like they were leading at that time, and they were getting the offensive boards and getting some second chance points. And at that point, they were leading 7-2, and then shortly after that, at 3:17, Alexa gets a block, and I believe that was her 100th block of her career, if I remember correctly. And then shortly after that, Chloe comes down and hits a 3. We start fighting back, and it was clear that this team, they were fighting back, they were scratching, they're clawing, and then Nikki, add to what Kathy had said, Nikki's defense, she just was harassing everybody on that court again today, and it was just exciting to see them fight in that first quarter.
Yeah, I'll kind of go a little bit later in the first quarter, kind of bridge the media timeout. Nikki hit a 3 at the 5-minute mark, and then Alexa hit a free throw, and she was short on everything. We may talk a little bit about Alexa. I just thought maybe she looked fatigued a little bit yesterday. And then Chloe Moore McNeil hit 2 free throws. So a 6-0 run over that stretch of about 2.5 minutes got us back to tied at 10-10. And I thought that was a real key stretch in that first quarter. Kathy, anything else in the first quarter?
Yeah, I want to talk a little bit about 3-point shooting, which I'm sure we'll probably get into more in depth. But we came out and I wrote down we missed 3, but I think they credited one of them to Nicole Cardano-Hiller as only a 2. So regardless, we hit either or missed rather our first 2 or 3, but they kept with it. And as you mentioned, Nikki hitting that 3, that was our first one of the game. And again, like the same thing, Chloe Moore McNeil, she's been actually fairly good here recently, at least from the 3, and they were letting her have it, right? Like just take it. They weren't going out and guarding her. They weren't facing up with her. And she missed her first at least 2, but she stuck with it and finally got one to go down at 1:45. And it was huge because that gave us our first lead in the game with 1:45 left to go, putting us up by 1 point, 12-13. So that was I thought an important moment for our girls in that first quarter.
Sean, anything else in the first quarter?
Yeah, I think one of the things that stood out to me was how we closed that quarter out. Nikki, like I said, Nikki was harassing, I forget her name, Clouden, and caused a turnover. And then right at the end, that final second of the game, Michigan State goes for a shot, and Alexa gets another block, gets her second block of the game early to end the quarter. And I think that just, is once again, it set the tone, and, it really showed that these girls were going to fight the rest of the day.
Yeah, and I'll kind of pick up on that, kind of that last minute for me. Lex hit a 3-point field goal with 56 seconds to go, put us up 4 at 16-12. Then she closed out the last possession really of the first quarter with a free throw where she went 1 of 2. But in fact, I'm trying to remember, that might have been. Nope, it was earlier where she went 1 for 3 at the free throw line when she'd been fouled on a 3-pointer, but she hit a free throw there and put us up 17-12 with 5 seconds to go in the quarter. So that was about all I had. Kathy, Sean, you got anything else in the first quarter?
Not for the first quarter. I think that took care of all of mine.
Yeah, I think I'm good.
All right, Sean, we'll throw it to you. What for the first time around here? What about the second quarter?
Yeah, the second quarter. One of the notes I had was that. IU didn't get their first turnover or didn't commit their first turnover until 8:05 in the second quarter, and so that was telling me that they're really taking care of the ball. And then things got a little scrappy there. Fouls, with the fouls, and about 6:45, Michigan State's head coach gets a technical foul, and it was. I think there's always calls, whether or not the refs, people wondering whether they're the correct calls or not. But I think you could see the frustration setting in on Michigan State at that point, and not only with the players, but with the coaching staff, and you could see that it was really affecting their play. And then, little under 6 minutes, Clouden gets her 3rd foul of the game already. That really, at that point, I was like, what's going to happen at this point with Clouden out? What's going to happen? Where are we going to go from here? Are we going to be able to take over that game? And Michigan State, they were able to hang in there. But I think it was just that defense that really frustrated Michigan State. I think it continued throughout that second quarter and throughout the rest of the game, honestly.
Kathy, what about you for the second quarter?
Yeah, Sean's on the same theme that I had for that second quarter. I wrote down my first 4 things I wrote down in that quarter is Nia Clouden getting frustrated. She actually got away with a push off, get her first foul early on in that 8-minute mark. Nicole Cardano-Hiller is just all over her yesterday, and she ended up, I think, helping to force that second foul on Clouden that turned into a technical, and then Another steal from Nikki at the 6-minute mark, which was right after Lexi actually blocked. And then Clouden, got her third foul on her with about 6 minutes left. So 3 fouls really quick from Nia Clouden, I thought really changed the tone of that game. And that happened there in that second quarter.
Yeah, I'm going to kind of go the other direction and piggyback off Sean just a little bit. We built up to an 8-point lead there in the second quarter with 3:46 to go. Nikki's three put us up 27-19. And then I felt like we lost a little bit of focus there, or maybe Michigan State finally dug in a little bit, but they had cut it down to by with a minute to go or 58 seconds to go, they hit another three, and that cut it to 3. And I got to admit, I was getting a little nervous if we'd gone into half only up 3 with Clouden with 3 fouls and not doing much offensively. I was getting a little nervous, but that, I'll save in case maybe you guys want to bring it up. But Sean, anything else in the second quarter?
Yeah, I think once again, at the end of the half, I had Allie got a steal and then passed ahead to Nikki and was able to get a shot for a 2 right as time expired at the half. So once again just showed that they weren't going to quit, but it was just a lot of fun to watch there.
Yep.
Kathy?
Yeah, I think for me, and it goes into your comments, Jeff, about the losing focus. With the 120 mark, we had Allie with the ball, and I thought for the most part, Allie had a good game. She was coming off a really great game earlier in the week, but she really just seemed to over dribble again, and it ended up leading into a shot clock violation. She ended up getting bailed out because they fouled her on the shot, but it definitely would have been a shot clock violation had they not fouled her. Unless it hit the rim, of course, but which we don't know. She ended up making her free throws, but then she turned it around, and then with 10 seconds left in that quarter, she had a great steal, threw it out to Nicole, and ended up with a layup at the end. We ended up pushing that quarter, but to your point, Jeff, I thought we really lost an opportunity, and that's what I was telling Sean when we were talking about it at halftime. I thought we really lost an opportunity with both Nia Clouden and I think Eck was on the bench too with foul trouble at that point. There about the last 3 or 4 minutes of that quarter. I thought we lost an opportunity to really open up the lead more than the 5 points we went into at halftime.
Yeah, but at least we were up 5, and I kind of had that as well. That play by Allie to get the steal and the assist to Nikki. I want to go back to Sean's earlier comment. I was really I was really surprised that Merchant got a tee that quick, because when she got the tech, it was still basically a 19-14 game. And I know she probably was trying to protect Clouden a little bit, but I just didn't feel that you were that deep into the game to really be that upset about the officiating, especially on the road. I mean, we've seen some more on the men's side, obviously, but we've seen some officiating that can be almost called atrocious. But then Grace goes to the free throw line and hits 2 free throws and stretches out the lead. And I don't think we were going to go to the line in that situation, except Merchant's Tech. So yeah, we'll take a couple free points there. So anything else in the second quarter?
Nope, not for me.
I didn't either. So we'll move on to the third quarter. Kathy, we'll let you go first on the third quarter.
Okay. Well, I mean, we can just call the third quarter the Grace Burger Show, right?
I think so.
But yeah, I think I actually will start out with a play that was actually started by Keandra Brown. Right out of the gate, she played some really huge defense that forced I didn't write it down, unfortunately, and my brain is too old to remember if it was a turnover or a missed shot. But regardless, it was just fantastic defense from Keandra Brown. Got the ball down to Grace, and she started us off by splitting 2 defenders and going up and laying it in to get her first 2 buckets of that quarter. So that's kind of, I think, maybe going to start off a theme, at least that I had down, around some really great defense from Keandra Brown and some really great offense from Grace Berger.
Sean?
Yeah, I think like Kathy said, it was the Grace Berger Show, and it was a couple of things that I pointed out in that markdown in that quarter also is that both Clouden and Eck picked up their 4th fouls during that quarter and during that entire run, and IU outscored Michigan State 14-30 in that run, and it was the most points that by IU in a single quarter this year. So they were just on fire that quarter. I forget what would they shoot percentage wise for that quarter.
It's like 70 something percent.
Yeah, 70 some percent. It was outstanding. I mean, the all around play. They just continued to build that lead, and you could
70%.
yeah, 70%,
Mm-hmm.
and you could continue to see that Michigan State was continuing to get frustrated by the defense, and they just couldn't get any good shots that quarter. And yeah, Grace just dominated. She was just on fire that entire quarter.
Yes.
Yeah,
So, Jeff, before we go on to your play, I'm going to interrupt. I'm going to pull Ryan, I guess. I have a question for you on that. So Sean mentions that both Clouden and Eck, their two leading scorers, got their fourth foul. And clearly Indiana is really starting to pull away. And I thought it's probably spoke to Michigan State's depth, the fact that their coach didn't pull either one of them and let them play with 4 fouls in the third quarter. But I'm curious from your perspective as a coach, what you kind of thought about her leaving them in, because, I can understand if it was, in the fourth quarter, but on the other hand, she probably needed them to stay in, right, to keep Indiana, which didn't work, from just completely blowing it open. But what are your thoughts on letting them play with 4?
Well, at that point, it's risk reward, and you were already down double digits. I don't think she felt like, and I probably would have agreed in that situation, you have to keep your best players on the floor. If they foul out, it's no different than setting them. I mean, it really is at that point. If you're sitting on the bench because you can't come back in the game, or because I don't let you back in the game, and you're down double digits. So she had to do something to try, and I think she hoped that maybe she could keep it close enough to where she got to the end of the quarter and maybe could set them for a few, maybe a couple minutes each. But it obviously with Grace playing as well as she did and the defense locking in. But I didn't have any real concern about that. I was obviously hoping to play. Now, the other thing about that, I thought, and I wasn't paying that much attention to it. Maybe I should have a little bit more, because I don't think she was guarding Grace, but I probably would have been more like, let's find who she's guarding and let's go through that person, especially Clouden. And maybe Eck was the one that was guarding Grace. And maybe that, I'm not trying to take anything away from Grace, but maybe Grace would benefit from a little bit laxer defensive presence, because they obviously couldn't foul, and they don't want to foul. Players know when they've got foul trouble. So from that standpoint, so yeah, I didn't have a problem with what Merchant did. I think I would have done the same thing, but it's 6 of one and half dozen of the other. You got to make you're down. If it had been single digits, 5-6 point game, then yeah, I'd be like, man, that's more risk than I want. But
right.
But mine was really kind of after the third quarter media timeout. Grace and Lex pretty much propel us to a 10-3 run. And we had about 3 different times that third quarter we went on like a 5-0, 6-0 run. And that's what we used to talk about. Talking about coaching, that was one of our big things. Was we used to tell kids, stop, score, stop, or score, stop, score. And then that way you were always extending lead. And I thought that the kids did that. The IU women did that very well yesterday. But starting at the 3:53 mark, Grace field goal, Michigan State field goal, Lex 3-point field goal at 3:07. Michigan State free throw, and then 2:23 Grace with 2 free throws, and then 1:39 Grace with a field goal and one. So you went from 51-36 in that stretch to 61-39.
Yeah.
So anything else in the third quarter from either of you?
Really just, I did want to, I touched on a little bit. I did want to highlight again some of the things we had from Keandra Brown, because again, you look at her stat sheet, she's had 0 points, 0 for 1 shooting, 6 rebounds, which was really showed up in the stat line. But I thought the things she didn't show up in the stat line. So again, I mentioned that defense at the beginning. At the 8:22 mark, she had a big offensive rebound that kicked it out to Allie to drive into actually ended up making her free throw and getting fouled and one. Some more defense from Lexi. And then at the 5:36 mark, Keandra Brown tipped actually a rebound out to Allie that led into a fast break. The fourth foul on Nia Clouden was Keandra Brown taking a charge from her. So I thought that third quarter you had your two dichotomies, right? We had Grace, which offense is clearly easy to see, and so to see it in the stat sheets and watch on television, I think Keandra just does some of those things you don't always notice when you're just watching the game. And when I look back through my notes, it was a lot of Keandra Brown in it in that third quarter.
Sean, anything else?
I think it was just, one kind of on to add to Kathy's was Nikki Cardano Hillary. I mean, she did so much defensively that didn't get noticed. And it was more that, she was on Clouden most of the game, and she pretty much shut her down and shut her down in that third quarter. And it really helped propel us to the lead.
Yeah. So I didn't have anything else for the third quarter. And so let's move on to the fourth quarter. And Sean, we'll throw it right back at you. What about the fourth quarter?
Fourth quarter, one of the things I had was Chloe, with the 8:04 in the quarter, she hit a long two that we thought was a three. We were hoping it was a three. And then she comes down a minute later, so with 7:10 left, hits another three. And that was the one where Brown kept the possession alive with the tip out. It was just so exciting seeing her get involved, hit a couple of those three-pointers early. And then, with, in that quarter, Grace ended up, hitting a new career high, with she had 27 points at that point, ended up with, 29. And, 19 of those points came in the second half. So it was just, once again, it was just, they just kept their foot on the gas and just, kept cruising to a victory.
Yeah. Kathy?
Yeah, I'll actually jump onto one of the moments that Sean talked about, which was Chloe Moore McNeil with her long two. That actually came with an assist from Grace. And I thought that showed Grace's complete game yesterday was not forcing things. She tried to drive the ball in and it just wasn't there for her. She probably could have forced up a shot, but she didn't. She took what the defense gave her and actually kicked it out to Chloe Moore McNeil for that. And then Grace, again, just leading the team here with 3 assists yesterday as well, which is what she's actually, her assists were down, right? Which is not unusual when you score 29 points. But she's been definitely leading the team with I think she's been averaging close to 5 assists a game. So again, just great stuff from Grace.
Yeah, and I really didn't have anything other than Chloe's little stretch there. Not that the kids weren't playing totally, playing well. Just that fourth quarter kind of became a back and forth. And then it was nice to see us get some kids in off the bench like Mona Zarek and Ariel Wisney into the game. Even though they only got a couple minutes, I like the fact that we were able to get those kids at least some floor time and such. But like I said, the kind of the last 6-7 minutes of the fourth quarter kind of was back and forth. So I didn't really have anything that stood out per se other than Chloe's moment.
Yeah. I think the thing that stood out for me in the fourth quarter was at the 2:30 mark, Nia Clouden made a basket, and that was her first one since the first quarter. And again, she played. It wasn't like she wasn't playing and not scoring. Again, I think it was a testament to Nicole's just pesky defense. And so you have somebody that, with Nia Clouden who averages 21 points per game, and they held her to 10. And I believe a good chunk of those came after that 2:30 mark when she finally made that basket. But overall, I just think, and I'm sure we'll get into it a little more when we talk numbers, but just the defense in general. You had Nia Clouden averaging 21, held to 10. You had Eck, who averages 12 points per game, held to 7. And Michigan State as a team actually averages 73 points. We held them to 58 points. And it's just a constant theme, and it's something that you can say, I think you're going to rely on game in and game out, where we're going to usually hold teams to under 70. We've only had a team once score us in 70 points.
Yeah. And Sean, do you have anything else?
No, I was actually going to highlight that same moment. So she beat me to it.
And I'll agree with Kirkwood here in the chat and with the Workaholics that I think you have to. Nicole Cardano Hillary definitely is going to be in that conversation for Defensive Player of the Year in the Big Ten. Just as because I think I heard the other day she's either second or third in steals in the conference, and obviously she gets some of the prime assignments when it comes time to defending. So, but that was all the meaningful moments I had as well. So next it's time to go inside the numbers. turnovers and pick out a few key stats to discuss, team and individual. And Kathy, I'll let you go first.
Sure. Well, I already highlighted kind of some of our defensive numbers, and Sean started to touch on the turnover. So I'm actually going to start there. Again, our team goal is 12 turnovers for the game. We ended with 7, but we had none in the first quarter, none in the third quarter. We had 5 in the second quarter, which means we ended up, even with, more of our bench players coming in, and, as you said, Jeff, it was a little bit more back and forth, only 2 in the fourth quarter. So 7 turnovers to me in that, compared to, we forced 11, which, to be honest, I was surprised when I saw that number. I thought we forced more, but I think it was just tough defense all around that maybe didn't force turnovers per se, but a lot of missed shots from Michigan State. So to me, again, just 7 turnovers is just outstanding.
Sean, anything for you?
Yeah, I think for me, it's just the shooting percentage throughout the game. They ended up shooting 44% overall. Indiana did. But going into I think the second quarter, they were only shooting 30% at that time. So it was kind of up and down, and they got down at the beginning of the game. Weren't shooting real well, and then that third quarter, it just it really took off. They really sparked the entire team, and they were all starting to hit shots at that point, and they really turned it on, and it was just a dominating performance.
Yeah, it's interesting how when one player starts to hit a couple shots, others will too. And of course, obviously, Grace was hitting a lot of shots in that third quarter. But yeah, I mean, when you look at it overall, outside of that third quarter, they still really didn't shoot the ball all that well, and
Right.
Still, like Kathy said, held them to 58. I'm going to kind of look at, and we end up losing the battle. But early in the game, Sean, you kind of mentioned this. We were really getting out rebounded something pretty bad in that first part, about first 5, 6, 7 minutes of the first quarter. And they only ended up out rebounding us 36-33. So to be able to get back into a situation where you only lost that battle by a couple, and when you're hitting shots like you do in the third quarter, there's not as many rebound opportunities either. So I thought that that number to me was huge, because early on, that was a number that was trending toward being, a double-digit margin for Michigan State. So for the team to get back into and rebounding a little bit better throughout the last 3 quarters, I thought was a big number. Kathy, anything else?
Yeah, kind of just to jump on, I want to talk a little bit more specifically about 3-point shooting. I thought that they were shooting a lot of 3-pointers in that first quarter, and they seemed to really bring that back in to something that was more manageable. They ended up shooting 7 of 20 for 35%, which actually is pretty good. But that first quarter, it was definitely pretty rocky until, like you mentioned, I think they started seeing the ball go in. The other thing I wanted to point out was, again, without Mac, we were almost even in points in the paint. We were 20 for 18, and I thought that led to a lot of, shooting 27 free throws. We made 21 of them. So we ended up making more free throws than they shot. And I think, again, those points in the paint and the free throws go together, because I thought they were actually pretty aggressive, which we saw a couple games ago where they didn't shoot a lot of free throws because they weren't driving the ball as much. So I think being even in that points in the paint was an important number that I like to keep an eye on as we still have Mac working our way back.
Sean?
Yeah, I think one other thing I would like to point out is the looking at the blocks and the steals. As I mentioned earlier, that Alexa got her 100th block in this game. She ended up with 3 blocks, and we ended up with that was our team total for the day. Michigan State only had 2. And then our steals, once again, we had 3 steals in the game to Michigan State's 1, and I think Nicole ended up with 2 of those steals. So it just goes to show that our defense stepped up too, and especially with Alexa and Nicole, and they're really giving Michigan State problems throughout the entire day.
Yeah, and I'm going to kind of use a number that you guys, that Kathy was talking about in the paint, but second chance points, we won that battle 14-7. And if you look at it, we had 6 offensive rebounds. So we were getting actually more than 2 points per offensive rebound. I mean, that's an outstanding number. And Michigan State only had 7 second chance points on 9 offensive rebounds. So the defense recognizing that they gave up the rebound, but they did a nice job of not giving up an easy putback in there. So I thought second chance points was a huge stat for me. Kathy, anything else, team or individual?
Well, yeah, I mean, I think we talked quite a bit individually already. We already talked about Grace Berger and her, season high 29 points for her on 9 of 17 shooting. She also contributed a team high 7 rebounds and tied with Allie Patberg for a team high of 3 assists. So her stat line all the way across was really fantastic. And Sean already touched on the 2 steals from Nikki. So those are a couple of the folks that I wanted to talk out individually from stats.
Sean?
Yeah, I think as well as Nicole and Grace was Alexa. I mean, she ended up with 13 points, was only 4 of 11 from field goals, but had 6 rebounds and had those 3 blocks, and I think and 1 assist. So she did end up with 2 turnovers, but I think she brought her defensive game today, and let other players step up and take on the offensive part of the game.
Yeah, I think jumping on for Alexa, just to point out, since Mac has been out, she's actually been averaging 17 points a game. Right. So she's really been stepping up from an offensive perspective. And Jeff mentioned it early on. It just seemed that she was maybe a little fatigued yesterday. Her legs weren't quite there. She was uncharacteristically missing shots that she probably wouldn't. She was 3 of 7 from her free throw line, but she brought it on the defensive end. So it wasn't, again, we may not, it can contrast that to maybe sometimes what we see with other teams that we may follow. We don't have to say if, Lexa goes one way, that's how the team goes. Or if Grace goes one way, that's how the team goes. You really don't know who's going to step up from game to game, but there always seems to be somebody who steps up.
Yeah, and you mentioned this earlier with 3-point shooting. Joel was bringing it up with the Workaholics. They only shot, I guess I wasn't that alarmed by 7 threes in the first quarter, but they didn't start out very well. And I think they hit their last couple, which made that 3 for 7 in the first quarter look a little better. Not sure this is a team that wants to be on a 28 shot 3-point attempt pace, but like we were pointing out in the Workaholics, they shot 35%. We can live with 35% from this team because that's going to be good enough to keep teams honest on the defensive end and not allow them to just pack it in, especially once Mac gets back. And like I said, I just thought Lex looked short on overshots. That's why I thought maybe she was a little fatigued because everything just was short, whether it was a jump shot or whether it was her free throws. Everything was front rim. And so, but they're going to play a lot of games here. And one of the things, it may not be a stat, but they played yesterday. They're going to play Monday. They play again, I believe, Wednesday, and then Saturday, Monday. So they're going to play about 5 games in about 8-9 days, almost I hate saying NBA type schedule, WNBA type schedule, but that's what you're going to get to.
If you count yesterday's game, they play 6 games in 13 days.
Yeah, there you go. Thank you.
Yeah.
So one of the things I want to point out here was Grace was 11-11 at the free throw line.
Yeah.
They got to the free throw line 27 times, helped by a couple technicals from Michigan State, but they shot 21 of 27. This has been a team that at times has not shot all that well at the free throw line, but yesterday they shot 78% at the free throw line. And again, I really felt like we talked about this, Kathy, after the Illinois game, that really for the first time since the COVID pause, and I thought yesterday continued that, it looked like they now, even though without Mac, they look a little bit more like that team that played Nebraska and Purdue before the COVID pause. And I think that shows up in the numbers. You have 5 kids in double figures. We didn't shoot it all that well, but the balance was there. Nobody – well, Grace had 29, but we had 5 kids, and Chloe was one of those with 10. So I just think that it's a good sign to me. Now he's got to be able to get Mac back hopefully sooner rather than later. I don't want her to be injured. I don't want her to be 50%, anything like that. I just think it's huge if you can get her some run before you get into the Big Ten tournament.
Yeah, I absolutely agree with that too.
I don't have anything else on the stats unless you two do.
Nope, I'm good.
No.
Oh, I did want to point out one thing. You kind of did mention it. Cloud only had 10 points and 3 of 12. We held her to 3 of 12 shooting, and she was a -20 on the floor. And I know some people don't always like plus minus. I'm a bigger fan of plus minus than some people, but I thought that was, for your star on the other team to be a minus 20 was really big. So anything else you guys want to talk about here? Any additional storylines?
I don't think so. Not specific to anything with the stats. No.
Okay.
Nope.
You're listening to the Doing the Work IU postgame show. Catch us live immediately following most IU women's basketball games. You can find us at our website, assemblycall.com. Also, make sure you sign up for our free IU Hoops email newsletter. Over 9,000, closing in on 10,000 your fellow Hoosier fans have subscribed. Join for free today at join.assemblycall.com. That's join.assemblycall.com. I'm Jeff Marlow here with our co-host Kathy Amos and our guest Sean Cron, and we are breaking down Indiana's win against Michigan State yesterday. It's time now for our game balls, and Kathy, I'm going to let you go first on the game balls.
Okay, well, I think hopefully, anyway, this is going to be a quick and easy one. It's got to, in my mind, be Grace Berger. I mean, Grace had a season high 29 points. Again, we read off the stat line, but it wasn't just the stats and the offense that she put up, especially in that third quarter for me. It was her complete game. I pointed out, again, the time when she was hit there in that fourth quarter where they brought her back when Michigan State seemed to be like they were going to go on some of a bit of a run, and she didn't force it. Passing it out to Chloe McNeil, she still had that 3 assists again. So to me, in her defense was spot on point. So I think this is an easy one anyway for Grace.
Sean?
Oh yeah, you have to give it to Grace. Like Kathy said, her stat line was just unbelievable. 29 points, a career high. Led the team in rebounds and assists. I guess tied with Allie, but she just sparked the rest of the team. Her play. I think the rest of the team saw that, and it's contagious, and they just were able to go out, and the rest of the team was able to hit some more shots in that third and fourth quarter, and it was just her all around play just really propelled us to a win here.
Yeah, and I thought yesterday, really for the first time in a while, that Grace just looked like the flow. She hit shots, she made shots that we've gotten used to seeing Grace Berger hit over her career. And there were times this year we're like, man, that's a Grace's shot, and it's just not falling for her. And like she said a couple times on the Grace Berger show, she's not going to stop shooting. She knows what her shots are. Her teammates trust her. Her coaching staff trusts her, and she'll come out of a slump. She just knows that every player has them, and at some point you'll come out of it. And the only way you do is to keep shooting. So I didn't think it was going to be too tough of a call on Grace Berger for our game ball. So and here's again back to the depth of this team. Game ball so far this year now: Mac with 3. Nicole with 3, Allie with 3, and now Grace Berger has 3 game balls, and Alexa has 1. So you got 4 different players that have each won a game ball 3 different times. So I thought that was interesting. And now it's time for the Hoosier Hustle Award, sponsored by our friends at Evansville Security Services. Evansville Security Services provides off-duty police officers to businesses and individuals throughout Indiana. Remember, prevention cannot be measured, so let Evansville Security Services help you prevent a bad outcome today. Go to evansvillesecurityservices.com to learn more. That's evansvillesecurityservices.com. And so, Sean, you're our guest. We're going to put you up first on the Hustle Award.
Maybe him do the harder one.
All right.
I had a tough time with this one.
Yeah, there's several.
Yeah.
My real Hustle Award, I'm going to give it to Nicole Cardano Hillary. She only had 12 points today on 4 of 9 shooting, but she did have 2 steals, and she helped hold Nia Clouden to 10 points, 3 of 12 shooting on the day. So I think her defense was just was outstanding today, and really it just locking Nia down just really helped us today, and it was exciting to see her step up, and I always love watching Nikki play defense, because it's just I tell Kathy this all the time. She's like a gnat. She's all over the place, and she's just you can't get away from her, and she's able to lock her down, and it really showed today that her defensive skills.
Kathy?
Okay, well, yeah, I think you can go a number of different ways here. I liked Chloe Moore McNeil's play again yesterday. I thought, again, coming in off the bench and ended up scoring double digits play. I thought Allie Papper contributed a couple of times in some nice areas. We talked about Lexi, but I am going to actually agree with Sean here. And my vote is as well for Nicole Cardano Hillary. You take their leading scorer again at 21 points per game and you keep her to over half or less than half that, rather at 10 points per game. I think she was definitely the epitome of what hustle, or being like Sean calls her, a defensive gnat. She embodied that yesterday.
Yeah, I'm going to have to go with Nicole as well. That was I was leaning that way anyway, and the two of you were going to outvote me with that anyway. But I did want to say that I really thought that Chloe came off the bench and did another nice job from that standpoint. But when you just watch this team, it kind of like Joel said, when they're at their best, Nikki's really setting the tone on the defensive end, and I think the other kids kind of can feed off of that. The one concern you obviously are going to have with Nikki is if she gets in foul trouble, because with the way she plays, you get an officiating crew that wants to be ticky-tack. Hopefully she'll be able to adjust, but she plays such a gritty type of defense. I'm not sure that's all that easy to change that mindset. But yeah, Nicole Cardano Hillary gets our Hoosier Hustle Award from yesterday, and so now Grace Berger with 3, Chloe with 2, and that makes Nicole second as well. And then Mac, Keandra, Lex, Grace Wagner, and Caitlin Peterson all have 1 Hustle Award each. So anything else that you guys want to talk about here, and any lingering storylines? Also, those of you who are here in the Workaholics in the chat, if anybody's got any questions you want us to answer here as we head towards segment 3, at the end of segment 3, put it in the chat, and we'll try and answer it best we can.
Yeah, nothing specific to this game. I'm sure we definitely have some lingering storylines and some questions that we can cover off maybe in the closing moments. I don't have anything specific to this game. I guess the maybe specific. I lied. I do have one specific, and that's springboarding off of our Real Hustle Award. I think we're going to see Nicole and her defense be really tested against Iowa here on Saturday, right? I mean, you have Caitlin Peterson. I'm sorry, Caitlin Clark. Wrong Caitlin. Yeah. A lot of Caitlins out there. Caitlin Clark on Iowa is just ridiculous, and you cannot let her shoot literally from anywhere when she gets into that half court. So that'll be a lingering storyline. Nicole's defense has been, she keeps those players pretty well in check. So that's going to be a tough one.
Yeah. So Sean, you got anything else you want to add in here?
Yeah, I think, to add to that Iowa game, they've got a big down low that is really good too. So I think it's going to, that's going to challenge us too with that. And hopefully we'll have Mac back for that game. But yeah, I think those 2 players, it'll be interesting to see how IU handles those 2 players, and if they can lock them down like they did Michigan State.
Yeah, and I'll kind of piggyback off here. We've got a couple questions in the chat. Let's start with Joel's first. Joel wants to know, does Peterson get no respect, or is she just a foul machine? I will kind of put this out there first. I think as a freshman, she probably doesn't get much respect, especially when she's guarding somebody else who is seen as kind of a veteran Big Ten player. But that's just my opinion. I think as it goes along, she'll get a little bit more. She won't quite get as many ticky-tack foul calls as she gets.
Yeah, Sean and I talked about Caitlin Peterson during the game, and I think yesterday it was just a bad matchup for her in terms of what she's able to do right now. Again, she's a freshman and she doesn't quite move her feet enough, and she gets a little handsy reaching in, and she got those 2 quick fouls, and then I don't think we saw her again until late into the 4th quarter when the game was well in hand. So I don't think it was a good game matchup for her with that. I think she needs to get that under control, and definitely with as much, as Coach Moore values defense, she's just got to be able to learn to move her feet. We saw some offense from her earlier in the year in a couple of games and some glimpses of that. And I think she has all the makings there to be which is I'm sure why they recruited her, to be what Coach Moore is looking for. It's just, she's not there yet. So I think you're right. And I'll agree with that. I think it's more, I don't know if it's the respect, but then she does get in and she fouls, and so you can't play her. So I think it's a combination of her being a freshman and just always seems to get some quick fouls early on when she does play.
Sean, you got anything else you want to add about Caitlin Peterson?
Yeah, I think that like Kathy said, we saw it throughout the game. She got those two, or got a quick foul. Saw Coach telling her to keep her hands up. And, so then later on in the game, she was doing that, and then she'd get called for another foul, and it's because she can't move her feet. So I think being a freshman, she's got to, maybe the game's a little bit fast for her yet. She's got to evolve to that, catch up to that. But I think it's, I think it's just, being a freshman, she'll get those calls, as she progresses in her career.
Yeah, I really agree with that, especially if she starts to establish herself as one of the better players, not only on our team, but around the Big Ten. Quang asked this one, chances to win the Big Ten. I'm paraphrasing a little bit. The chat moved up a little bit. But, Kathy, I'll let you go first. What do you think? Chances to win the Big Ten? I know and I saw you just post in the chat as well, as they're kind of still got games to play, but up two on the loss column here.
Look, we got some help this week for sure. We got Michigan State early on, and we thanked them by beating them yesterday. So that was a lot of fun. And then we got some more help today with Northwestern beating Michigan. So that, they were in front, and we're now in the driver's seat. And really, our fate is in our own hands. Now, unfortunately, we don't get another shot at Michigan, but we've got two loss cushion, if you will, over them. But we got to take care of business. We got Nebraska coming up tomorrow, and you cannot overlook Nebraska. We've got Iowa twice and Maryland. So 4 of those 5 games, they're going to be tough. And, Maryland and Iowa and Nebraska are 3 of the 4 are on the road. So they have to take care of the business. So to be honest, I like our chances, but it's a tough road, but they're in the driver's seat. And so the fate's in their hand, but I like our chances.
Sean?
Yeah, I agree. I really like our chances. The only thing I gotta say is we can't let up. We got to go in, and we got to go in and fight, and keep playing like we did in the third quarter. If we can do that, we're gonna walk away with that. But we've got some tough competition in Iowa and Maryland. Those games, they're not going to be easy. So we're gonna have to fight for them, and hopefully we can get Mac back, and we'll see what happens. But I really like our chances.
Yeah, I agree with both of you. I would say if you're kind of doing it as a percentage, I think we're above 50% to win it. But I agree with what Ari and and I was thinking the same thing about Nebraska. Just they've been very good at home. And they beat Michigan at home. Now, they have not played as well on the road, but we're going to Lincoln tomorrow to play them. So I think they're going to get a pretty hostile environment, knowing that IU is on top of the Big Ten standings. But right now, they control their destiny, and you really can't ask for anything more than that as well. I'll go ahead and ask this one last question here from Ari. Despite returning nearly every player across the board from last year, why do we think the Big Ten has taken such a step back in quality, especially in the middle? Kathy?
Well, I think Ari would be in a better position to be honest. I really couldn't tell you. We got those top 4 or 5 teams up at that are really strong, and then you've got like Northwestern and Rutgers. It's almost like we don't have a middle. It's like you have our top 5 teams and then the rest of the league. I don't know. It's an interesting occurrence that they've gotten so many players back. Maybe, I don't know, it comes down to just the quality of the players that the individual teams have. Yes, for example, we got all of our players back, but maybe you compare that to who Rutgers got back. And while they're the same players coming back, it's just the difference in the quality. Why it stepped backwards from last year? Maybe because the quality was higher to start with, it just even grew more different. I don't know. I don't know. You got anything, Jeff? That was a terrible answer.
I'll give Sean a chance to answer before I give mine.
Yeah, I'm with Kathy. I'm not sure why they had such a disparity there between the teams, and it's just I think maybe it's just the competition. Maybe the players just aren't gelling this year for some reason. But I'm not sure quite why that is.
Yeah, I think there's kind of a combination of things. I think one, like Kathy mentioned, maybe they really weren't as good. And I kind of think I liken it to IU football. We went 8-2 during the COVID year in football, and everybody thought we were going to take that next step, and we didn't, unfortunately. And trust me, I was just as disappointed because I thought we were going to have a big year. But I think some of those teams in the Big Ten last year, that COVID year was really weird from the standpoint of practicing. No fans in the stands, really. I mean, they really basically played with only family in the stands. And I think so. I think some teams handled that better than other teams did. And so I think that middle looked a little better last year than it probably really was. And also, it just sometimes things don't always flow year to year. I mean, we've all seen teams for our favorite teams, whether it's football, basketball, pro, college, you're thinking, man, we got all these teams back. I guess I'm old enough to remember back to 1984 when IU beat North Carolina in the Sweet 16, had almost everybody back. Everybody thought 85 was going to be a great year. And that year went to, well, we know what that year went to. It became the season on the, it led to the season on the brink. But you don't always get, just because they're all back doesn't mean they're all going to make the, be ready for that expectation either. Grace and I talked a little bit about this earlier in the year, that when you have success, everybody knows it, and people are gonna want to defend you. They're gonna want to come out and I think she's felt this a little bit. She has never said this. I think she's felt this a little bit, that I think she gets better. The other teams now, even though she was all Big Ten and everybody knew about her as a sophomore, her year last year has made her that much more of a focal point. And that to me, there's a combination of factors in there, but I think Ari probably knows more about the depth of the league. So I'm not sure why he's asking us in here, but Ari, I hope we answered it as best we can. But yeah, Ari did point out Rutgers lost to almost everybody, because I asked him that question today. I mean, just amazing. And I've forgotten that C. Vivian Stringer wasn't coaching this year. She had taken the year off. So,
yeah,
but still, they shouldn't be winless.
Right, for sure. The other thing I would be interested in seeing, though, are injuries and maybe even how that is hurt throughout. So, for example, Michigan just dropped 2 this week. To be fair, to point out to them, they lost their second leading scorer with Brown being out. I'm pretty sure she played against us. So at some point between the time they played us and, when they lost to Michigan State earlier this week, they've lost their second leading scorer. So maybe there's some of those factors that are coming into play as well, too. But boy, we really have to sit down and break down all of the teams to really understand, I think.
Right.
It's a deep question.
Yeah, and real quick, Kirkwood, I'll answer your question. Yes, pretty much everybody but Allie can come back. You have Lex, Nicole, and Grace will have some decisions to make about whether they want to come back next year. And so we'll kind of answer that question. Preview our upcoming shows tomorrow. Our next post-game show will be after the Nebraska game. That game is on BTN tomorrow night for all of our fans. It's at 7 p.m. Eastern, 6 p.m. Central. Nebraska currently 18-6 overall, 7-6 in the Big. But they're also coming off an 82-63 win at Illinois, and Indiana leads the series 10-5, having won 6 in a row, including a 72-65 win on January the 13th, which was the first game that Mac missed. So you basically are about 1 month to the day where Mac has been out. So it'll be interesting to see how that kind of shows up. And then the Tuesday night, the men will have a post-game show as they are playing Wisconsin. They have Wisconsin at Assembly Hall, and so the AC guys will have a post-game show after that. So you're listening to the Doing the Work IU post-game show. Remember to check out our friends at Home Field Apparel and use the promo code HOME, HOME, at checkout to get 15% off your first order. Okay, it's time for last call, and Sean, I'll give you a chance to go first on last call.
Yeah, I think this game was just really outstanding on, from a Grace Berger standpoint. Watching her come in and set a career high, and it was just really seeing her come through and spark the rest of the team. And then watching Nicole and her defense shutting down Clouden, and it was just overall, a great victory for the team. With 5 people, 5 ladies scoring in double digits. It was just an all-around win for the team. I'm excited to see what happens when Mac does come back. see how the team adjusts, and with Chloe stepping up her game recently, and with Keandra Brown, her defensive efforts and everything. I think it's going to be exciting. So I'm looking forward to Mac coming back. But as far as this game yesterday, it was just an all-around team effort, I think.
Kathy, last call.
Yeah, I think Sean summarized the game perfectly, and I want to maybe take a bigger step and just see my lingering questions, things I'm going to be watching for, and we've touched a little bit on all of these. So we're in the driver's seat, right, of winning the Big Ten outright. We got some help from some teams earlier in the week, but how are we going to respond? We got 13 days. We have 6 games. We're still without Mac, and that's the missing piece right now. I think if we can get her back for Iowa, especially, even if she can only play limited time, and really start getting her mixed back into the flow of the game and really getting her basketball legs, so to speak, back underneath her, both literally and figuratively, since it was a knee problem. That all coming together, if we can really finish out strong these last 2 weeks. I love what we're going to see, I think, coming into March. And I think this team's going to be a real force to be reckoned with. So again, just can we sustain it? We got some tough games coming up too. So, game by game, I think it's going to be a lot of fun. It's going to be a fun road to the finish.
Yeah, I kind of like that, Kathy, as kind of a lingering question. Just that, how will you play with the target on your back? Because when you're number one in the league, whatever league it is, everybody's going to be coming for you, and they're going to. And even for a team like Northwestern that can't win the league, they're going to take some pride if they can go in there and beat us and be like, well, hey, we cost them possibly a chance. So you're going to have to be ready. Nebraska in the same way. To me, the lingering question is, when is Mac possibly back? I don't think we'll see her tomorrow. I don't think we may see her Thursday against Northwestern, but can we see her at home in Assembly Hall next Saturday against Iowa? To me, that would be a huge lift, just to get her some minutes. I always, she doesn't even have to play half the game. Just get her 10 to 12 minutes, and then get her, maybe another 10 to 12 on Monday against the return trip to Iowa. Just build her some minutes so she's feeling like by the time we get to the Big Ten tournament. All right. And to me, so that's kind of a big question. I feel like the kids have really made some progress this week in where they are. So, I just want to see when we can get Mac back as if we can get Mac back and be healthy, as close to healthy as we can. I like where this team's opportunities are in March. And Quang, I want to thank you and all the workaholics who are giving us such positive feedback in the chat every time we're on. So thank you from that. So that will do it. If you want to see us do the show live and be a part of the live chat, make sure that you subscribe to our YouTube channel, youtube.com/assembly call. And don't forget to go to join.assemblycall.com to join our free email newsletter. Special thanks to John Ringer of Rig Design for designing our logo, and thank you for listening. We'll be back to talk IU hoops again with you tomorrow night, Monday night, after the Nebraska game. Until then, keep your elbows in and your eyes on the rim, and go Hoosiers.
Yeah, no rest for the women and no rest for our show.
No,
Sean, you did great.
Sean, you were awesome. And by the way, again, everybody who's been there in the chat today and been following along, you guys, you can't understand, at least for me, and I don't want to totally speak for Kathy, but for us to hear people who come up to us, whether it's in the chat or at the meetup at Switchyard, tell us how much they appreciate the show. It really means a lot. So it helps spread the word. Obviously, we want to get all the people who want to talk about IU women's basketball, but we appreciate our core loyal people who've been here with us.
Yeah, absolutely. And same thing, even if you're not able to listen to us live, like our few people that were able to today or will after the games, to those of you that listen later on YouTube or on, your podcast feed, thank you for all of that. We're not doing this because we're getting paid and making a ton of money. We're making nothing off of this. We do it because we love it. And really, we want to just spread the support of our women's basketball team. We're not here for ourselves. We're not here for any other reason other than the fact that we think these women have just played outstanding, especially the last 5 or 6 years as the program has grown. And that's what we're here to do, is just to share that love of it and to spread that and to get more support for the women out there.
Sean, thank you for being here today.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me.
All right, I'm gonna put you guys on the spot before we go. Super Bowl, Rams or Bengals, Sean?
For me, it's the Rams. So I guess I don't follow either team, but I like Stafford as quarterback. Kind of want to see him win just because of all the time he spent at Detroit on those losing teams, and I like cheering for the underdog. So
Are they the underdog?
I don't know that they're the underdog. I think he's been an underdog for a number of years. So
Yeah, the Rams, last time I saw, the Rams were a 4.5-point favorite. Kathy, Rams or Bengals?
I think so too. I think Burrow's offensive line is going to be a little suspect today, and I think. Oh yeah, hey, yeah. Ari just put in there. Burrow's going to get sacked a bunch.
Yeah.
So,
I'm going with the Rams. So we're across the board here. So when we talk tomorrow night, we're either going to have something to be happy about, or we're going to have to tell the chat mob we didn't know what we were doing when we picked the Rams. So
yeah, no idea. I don't have any idea. So I bet on both teams. Just to be fair, I've been doing a little sports betting this year, so I put money on both. So I'm covered.
Well, I put money on the Rams, but you're like going to that's like going to the roulette wheel and putting money on black and red.
I did. I know that's what I do sometimes. No, they actually had some special in, like, I think it's in fantasy draft or whatever. I can't remember what thing app I used, but they had some like a parlay for both sides, and I'm like, oh, whatever. And it was like some like ridiculous bet $5 and you win like 40 something. That's my big betting, is the whole $5. So
Yeah, I don't bet a whole lot either. So
yeah.
Hey, we'll let you guys go. You guys have a great evening. Enjoy the game. We'll talk to Kathy. I'll talk to you tomorrow.
Sean, you want to try again tomorrow with us?
we'll see. We'll see. So
I'll on our own. We'll get him on.
But you'll be the host tomorrow night with tomorrow night's show. So we'll have Kathy be the host tomorrow night. Everybody enjoy your evening. We'll talk to you tomorrow after the Nebraska game.
All right. Thanks everyone.
See ya.